What is going on, guys? It's your favorite mortgage lender, Abdel Kouami. I hope you guys are having a blessed day. It actually just started raining by us. Holy crap, do we have a lot to cover? I didn't get a chance to jump on Monday, just being super, super tied up, trying to push everything through. It's been very, very busy, thank God. But what is going on with the market? Rates are obviously skyrocketing. With rates skyrocketing, we're going to start going over what are really some of the potential things that have been impacting them. And it is so critical for us to get a firm understanding of this. And if you're a professional, super, super important that you guys stay on this phone call. I have these type of calls with my realtor partners consistently. It is critical for you as a real estate professional or even any consumer to be educated on what are some of the factors that are currently affecting the market. There's so much that is going into interest rates skyrocketing, so much going into expectations that we're going to try my best to keep this as concise as possible for you to get it. Okay. Now, before we do that, again, what happened last week will kind of set the expectations. We know last week we had was the employment data week. Okay. And we saw, again, jobs report came in. We were expecting about 200,000 jobs. We got over 300,000 jobs. Obviously, wasn't necessarily too much of an appetite. Now, we did dissect these and we did notice that a lot of these jobs were part-time. So if we can kind of go here and see specifically what happened with interest rates after Friday and what you guys can actually see, and I was actually doing this. If we go back to December 1st of 2023, you guys can actually see interest rates are basically back to where they were. And actually, right after Friday, we saw a little bit of an uptick, and then we started seeing a downtick on Monday after we really dissected the BLS report. Okay. Now, again, the bottom line, when we saw that, we also saw a jump in private jobs simultaneously. And then we also saw a little bit of a flat uptick in terms of initial jobless claims. That's not what I really wanted to focus on today, as that's now in the past. What did we get hit with? We got hit with, I'm sure everybody have seen it on the news, the CPI report, Consumer Price Index report. What are people still spending their money on? That's what I want to kind of get a firm understanding. We know that gas prices is going up. We know that insurance costs are significantly going up. And we also know one of the contributing factors was motor vehicle insurance actually went up by almost 20 to 22% in terms of costs. I know that because I currently have my current insurance carrier. I noticed that my insurance policy actually went up significantly. I'm noticing that my home insurance policy went up significantly. So that's causing people to obviously spend a little bit more than the market is factoring into it. Now, again, in no which way is that the market is obviously starting to factor into where we were in 2022. In 2022, where inflation was as high as almost 9%, guys. As we can see, we're at that roughly 3.5 to 3.8%. Okay. Now we're really going to start diving in and seeing a little bit more of an affordability concern that we really want to make sure that we're monitoring, most importantly, and we're staying on top of these items because it is just so uber critical for all of our clients to be educated. I knew that on Wednesday there was going to be a slight curveball that we could face with the CPI report. On the day before, on Tuesday, we went ahead and locked 8 different clients some of them were closing in literally 2 weeks. Some of them are actually closing not until less than 2 months. But I said, let's lock. And if the market gets better before then, we could do an interest rate float down. If the market gets worse, doesn't matter. You're already protected. We're good from a worst case scenario perspective. So those consumers were obviously able to take advantage of that stuff. So it's so critical that when you're working with a professional, because guys, a big jump like this that we have been seeing, we have literally seen a sharp uptick. We dropped to almost 7.06. We're now teetering a little bit higher to 7.37 based on a conventional rate. And remember, this is for that creme de creme borrower who's got the 20% down single family home. Most of us know that a lot of those consumers generally are usually not looking at those things. So super that we're starting to see a lot of those things, a lot of rocky movement that we want to make sure that we're staying on top of. Okay. In addition to the CPI report, we also saw, like I had discussed, the BLS report. We got the ADP report. Now this is going to be a big one. So this was February's PCE report with the personal consumption expenditures report. We're going to get this same report again at the end of this month. I believe it's April 25th. We're going to get updated reports in terms of the PCE. This is the Federal Reserve's favorite interest rate gauge, okay? And we saw in February, again, a slight shift in regards to where progress. We're still seeing it being slowed down, but we saw a slight shift. So it's going to be really interesting to see what is going to be the transition as we start factoring in inflation and employment. We also saw today jobless claims didn't really come in meeting expectations. We actually saw a little bit of a downtick in terms of new jobless claims that people were claiming. So the labor market is remaining strong. People are still spending their money. This is essentially going against the mandate that the Fed is looking to do. The Fed had increased interest rates, we know, 11 times since March of 2022. So they're kind of in a pickle right now, as opposed to, all right, we keep hiking rates. Things are more expensive. We got today the personal PPI report, producer price index, which measures essentially wholesale inflation, what it costs to make things. And that came in just slightly under expectations, which was great. But we also didn't really see that big of a transition where we can kind of put our heads down and say it. Is we saw wholesale inflation rose. It rose by almost 0.2% in terms of where the fights. And the major things that factored into this, we did see a lot of different transitions. Most importantly, we had gas plays a major factor at the same time. And then we also saw energy. So those two things, gas, energy, and food, factored in a little bit of a changes. So over a 12-month basis, the PPI report, producer price index, what the cost is to make things, has slowly been transitioning. Obviously, it beat expectations today, which was great. Now, the market is still kind of tiptoeing in regards to these items. So it is so critical that when you're a professional out there or a consumer, that you're hyper staying educated on what the different avenues, because we're starting to see a little bit of a volatility in terms of the interest rate market that we were kind of seeing a little bit towards April and May of last year of 2022. And around that time last year, we saw a big change in terms of rates, right? If I was to go back, we were shooting, October. I remember October, right around Halloween, is when we actually were able to take a shift down, literally. But we took a little bit of an uptick. And if you guys can kind of see, basically since July, we're kind of catching up to where we were reverting back. Yesterday was probably the worst day in quite some time. I think it's actually probably history. But in terms of interest rates, that massive, the bond market took a huge hit. And that kind of obviously caused interest rates to simultaneously skyrocket, and it caused a 10-year treasury yield, which does factor into those. So we're seeing a lot of that uptick. Now, most of my clients who are not in the process of looking to close anytime soon, we're starting to hopefully float them and kind of see the market transitions. But it is so critical for you, if you're a consumer out there who's buying, to sit down and meet and set the proper expectations with your professional. Make sure they know what's going on. Get a firm understanding as to what are the different things that we're expecting, what is coming up. I have literally saved my clients thousands of dollars when we locked on a specific day, as opposed to waited the following day when we saw a little bit of an uptick, which not only saved them upfront from the cost to acquire, but saved them in obviously the long-term length of the loan of over 360 months if they were to keep it. Okay. So super critical that we start seeing those things. Again, later on this week, we already got the PPI report. We got the CPI report, which came in pretty crappy, which we know caused a lot of this fluctuation. Today, we got some of the minutes from the Fed. There really was nothing that really factored into too much of a market change, which was great, because that could have caused a little bit of a curveball. It was still kind of left a little vague in terms of what the Fed's mandate was going to do. So we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, I will keep you guys updated, and hopefully we'll see a little bit of a transition within the market, and we'll take it from there. I appreciate everybody jumping on. I will be sending over a copy of this video presentation to everybody who had the chance to join us. So any questions that you guys have, of course, please feel free to reach out to us, and I'll chat with you guys next time. Have a great day.